Good afternoon, I am Mr. Ish. You are joining me for this video on composite functions. There was a time on standardized tests the concept of functions was not tested, and I'm talking maybe in the 90s, but now when you look at these type of tests, they pop up all the time. What exactly is a composite function? It's a function within a function. F composite g, you would write that as f of g of x, which means if you had a certain f of x function, whatever it was, and you had a g of x, this function fell right in here and then it was affected by the f function. And you can have a chain of functions which are composite functions, f of g of h, f of g of h of x. And exactly in the same way, h of x fell into the g of x and this fell into the f of x, and that's how you would evaluate it. We will look at two questions in this video. This topic is by no means hard. It can just be a little tricky in terms of how you do the algebra part. Let the first question be this: if f of x is equal to 2 over 3x minus 1 and g of x is equal to root x, find f of g. And how are you going to do that? You know, f of g is basically saying f of g of x, meaning the g function went into the f function. Wherever the g function is went into the x value of the f function. So your answer would be 2 over 3 root x minus 1, right? Because the g of x went into place of the x variable of f of x. However, if the question was find g of f, you know in this instance you're doing g of f of x. And this instance, this entire f function is feeding into that root x, and your answer would be this entire root, all of this is gonna fall into that 2 over 3x minus 1, and you see that right away. And both of these answers here should be right, so there's not really much to it. With regards to composites, you should also be able to think backwards, that is, work backwards. If you are given a composite function, let that be, well, let's do two parts. You have one function which looks like this, 1 over 2x squared minus 1, and another function which looks like this, and let's write root 4 over x plus 1. If you know, well, all of this is under the root. You are asked that a certain function is f and a certain function is g. Their composite yields this. What could the f and the g function be for both of these instances? The way you could have gotten this is f of x could have been 1 over x and g of x could have been 2x squared minus 1, and what you're looking at in this instance is f of g. In this instance, g of x is going right into place of this x in the denominator, and you get 1 over that, and your answer is solved. So the question would be, what are the two functions that led to this composite? The two functions would be this, but they fell into this format where the g of x fed into the f of x. Likewise, similar question over here. There are usually multiple ways of doing it. Let f of x be root x, and then g of x can be 4 over x plus 1, and what you're really looking at is f of g, meaning this entire function g of x fed right into here. All of this fed into here, and you got this. So that's what you're looking at right over here. How about we add a different question over here, and let's add a part C. If supposedly you have something which looks like this, 4x plus 1 over x, how could you have determined this from two functions which gave rise to this? Now this is a little tricky because you have variable in two parts, but there's a certain f function, there's a certain g function, such that if you combine them in some way, you should end up with that. And what could that combination have been? You could very well get this from this instance where f of x was equal to 1 over x. And g of x was equal to, let's say, x over 4x plus 1. And you're looking here at an instance of f of g of x. Think about it. If all of this plugs into this, you're doing the reciprocal. Essentially, you're doing the reciprocal of g of x, because all of this will get plugged right here into the denominator. We'll look right over here. You're looking at 1 over x over 4x plus 1. And you can easily flip this around because it's a reciprocal, and you end up getting exactly this. So if supposedly this is your question, it is made up of two functions. F of x is a 1 over x, g of x is x over 4x plus 1, and again in this instance you're looking at f of g of x, and that's how you would get this. And with that, we'll end this video. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, like and subscribe. Have a good day.